you fear the fungus? Fungus. Could be nasty. Sometimes it's good in soup and good on pizza, but in your lens, it's not a good thing. So should you fear the fungus? Let's find out.
Here I am, Vietnam. Rain is always coming down.
Camera Talk with Dr. Scott. All right, this week's episode, we're looking at fungus. Are you a fungi? I thought I was a fungi. Fungus, something that camera people, photographers, videographers, anybody to do with anything with lenses, really, not just even cameras, but microscopes and so on and so forth. Anything with lenses, optics. Fungus may be one of those evil things that
evil, I tell ya, evil, evil.
It's lurking in the shadows, waiting to come out. Now, it's not that kind of fungus. And no, it's not that kind of fungus. But this kind of fungus. That's right, lens fungus. It's something that it's out there. It's part of our everyday lives. We can't really do much, about it because it's everywhere. I mean, any breath you take has got fungus spores in it. Every little particle of dust, has a fungus spore in it. They're everywhere. It might be kind of creepy for a lot of people, but it's just a fact of life. It's part of the scientific animal kingdom that we all share the planet with. But anyway, fungus spores can get into your lenses, and this week, I just acquired this Nikon 135 millimeter f3.5. It's an excellent lens. You can read reviews about it online. I know the angry photographer got all excited about this lens too.
Grab a 3.5 and you're like, well, maybe the bokeh's not a good. No, it's perfect. It's awesome. It's just as awesome as the 2.8 is. It's even a little bit smaller. So,
and it is. It's a great lens. But when I got it, as much as the seller online claimed no scratches, no separation, no fungus, no this, no that. Now, of course, you can't see this through through the video here, but a lot of the times it's on the rear element, and of course, the rear element is the most important one. It's that's where anything like dust particles or scratches or fungus is going to likely appear on your photograph, if anything, as an artifact or a flaw in your in your photo. That's what we're going to look at this week. Is I'm going to take this apart for you and show you how to get rid of that fungus. So you should not fear the fungus. Fungus can be that bad where it can actually etch itself into the glass. And how that happens is, fungus is a living organism, and just like every other living organism, it produces a waste product. For lack of a better term, you would think of it as fungus poop. And it gets on your lens, and it's like acid. It etches itself. It burns itself into either the coating or the lens, the glass itself. It burns. And there's ideas out there that actually some of the ways that lenses are produced, some of the chemicals and some of the compounds used to make lenses may provide food or nutrition for the fungus, so it actually eats itself into the lens. Now it's to get a little more scientific, the fungus is a mycelium structure, and it branches, so it's called a branching mycelium structure. It spreads itself out. And why it's doing that is because it's looking for food. So as I already said, a lot of our lenses, and I mean a lot, have some kind of dust or anything inside. And what is that dust made of? It's bits of us, pieces of skin and dead cells, things like that. Fibers from our clothing, especially cotton, any kind of organic material. And that stuff gets into the lens itself. Generally, it's our own fault. It's through the way we clean our lenses by wiping them around or breathing upon the lens and whatnot, getting it into the corners of the glass and where it could migrate into the interior of the lens. And again, these things the dust provides food for the fungus. And as a spore, of course, all it needs is a little bit of moisture and some dark, privacy, and will start to grow. And if it has enough food inside the lens, then it will it'll spread, and it could spread not just among the lens itself, but it could spread up the barrels of the lens. It could spread into your camera, and if it has enough food in there, it could actually produce its own spores and send them airborne. And if they can get out of your lens, they can also migrate to neighboring lenses. If you keep your lenses together like I do, as you can see up here. Inspect your lenses, every month or every couple months or whatever. Take a look at them and see, if you discover any growth upon the lens. And that's what today's episode is all about. Is I'm going to show you how to go about cleaning the elements of your lens if you do discover some fungal growth on your elements of the lens. So stay tuned for that, and hopefully we'll have a successful ending, happy ending. I'll have myself a nice, sparkly, brand new lens here to use. So again, it's a Nikon 135 millimeter AI f3.5, very highly rated lens, and it's an excellent sharpness, whatnot. There's some who may even say it's better than the 2.8, but anyway, this is the one I have, so obviously I prefer it over the other one. So let's get at it. Let's see how we go about cleaning our lenses. All right, so I'll be with you in a sec. Okay, so here we are, ready to take care of our fungus problem. Now, first off, I'm going to now the solution I would prefer to use would be a hydrogen peroxide mix with ammonia, but since I don't currently have any ammonia at home, I'm using vinegar. Vinegar is pretty rough on fungus as well, so I'm using here you can see I just put in 3 capfuls of vinegar solution with even though vinegar is not a solution, but vinegar with my hydrogen peroxide here that I'm using. So it's your typical hydrogen peroxide you pick up at the drugstore. 3% hydrogen peroxide, active ingredient. So this is a mix of equal parts vinegar and equal parts hydrogen peroxide. And these have been known to really take care of the fungus issue that we have on lenses, and many people have been successful using this combination. So that's what's in the dish, and when my lens is ready, I'm going to soak it in there for a little period of time. So let's take apart the lens here. Now this is a Nikon 135 3.5. It's an older lens, of course, and what I prefer to do is remove the 5 screws you see here, to remove the back metal plate, the mounting plate. But of course, like a lot of older material, the screws don't want to come out by themselves. So one way to go about doing it is to use a acetone, which is like nail polish remover, and soak it into each one of the screws to get them out. But for sake of time, because I'm only after getting out that back element, I don't actually need to do that. So what I'm going to do is remove these smaller screws along the side here. There's 3 of them, as you can see, going around the mount here. So I remove those 3 smaller screws to get rid of that felt liner. That's the inside the barrel of the rear part of the lens here. So first off, before I do that though, I'm going to put on some gloves. So now that I have my little rubber gloves on, they don't fit very well either. I'm gonna have to order some larger gloves. These are a little tight on my fingers. I can't get them quite as tight as I'd like to around the fingertips. So as you can see on the right hand, I've got a little excess, rubber, because it's a pain in the butt to get them snug in there like this. But anyway, let's get these 3 little screws out of here, and it's going to allow me to remove that inner lining of the barrel. Now, technically, you don't have to go about doing this. You could actually, remove the retaining ring as is, but I don't want to damage that felt lining either. I want to leave it as pristine as possible, even though, as I say, it's a vintage lens. So, I'm going to remove anyway. It's easy enough to do. Get these 3 little screws out, and this felt liner just kind of just slides right on out of there, as you can see here. Now, remember the orientation of it too. The aperture lever along the side right here has to line up with the notch here, as you see in the liner. So just remember that for when you're assembling in that again, how that orientated itself. Now, using the lens spanner, this is a vital tool for removing lens elements themselves, or the retaining ring. You'll find little notches in the retaining ring, as I show you here. So you just insert there and turn. Sometimes it's very snug, which it was actually before I started turning this. So I applied a little acetone, which I didn't show you here, but I applied a little just to loosen it up. So so here I've got the retaining ring spun all the way out. Using once it's loose, you can use your fingers to get it in there, because I don't like having that that tool in so close to my glass. Last thing I want to do is slip and put a big gash into my rear element. It'll make me cry like a little girl. So here we just turn the lens upside down, give it a little pop, and voila, it comes out into my hand. Now, of course, this is the benefit of wearing gloves, is to so you're not getting any unnecessary oils or anything else. Now, again, remember the orientation of the glass as it comes out, so that when you're putting your lens back together, you put it back in the appropriate way. So, of course, the backside is concave, so you remember that as an orientation when you're putting it back in. So, so there's the lens, and again, all the way around the edges here is the fungus, and it's not a ton of fungus, so you don't see with your naked eye unless you get real close to it or look at it through the light, but it's there, and as I showed you earlier in this video, some photos of it close up, and so it's definitely there. So we place it into the solution of hydrogen peroxide and vinegar, and give it a good soaking. You probably don't want to leave it any longer than about 3 minutes or so. You don't want anything eating into the coating of the lens itself. So while we're waiting, you might as well take care of the inside of the barrel, because that's the thing. A lot of people, when they're cleaning their lens, they're only thinking of the glass elements. Well, of course, those glass elements sit on different retaining or levels within the barrel itself that also could be infected with the same fungus. So it's good to give the inside of your lens a good cleaning to try and remove any fungus spores that may be lurking in the shadows, so to speak, as well as clean out any dead skin and other dust particles that have gathered over the last 30 or 40 years that provide food for the fungus. So, as I said, while we're waiting for the solution to do its thing with the lens, give your lens barrel a good wipe down with the same solution, and hopefully it'll prevent further further movement or growth going on in there. Always give it a good blow with your rocket blower. It's better than using your breath, because of course when we breathe out, all that moisture and everything, you don't want that into your lens either, because that's again something that leads towards fungus growth. So so give everything a good blow out of there, so hopefully any dust or anything else that may be lodged inside is dislodged and may come out this way. So here I have some isopropyl alcohol, so I'm also going to give a little wipe down with that too, just to hopefully ensure that I've got out any kind of nasties that the first solution may have missed. So it's just a little extra preventative medicine, so to speak, and with fingers crossed, this will keep my lens fungus free for the foreseeable near future. And it's good to get all that stuff out of there anyway, because lenses are not meant to be housing any kind of foreign materials that just don't belong in there. So that's what I'm doing here. Alright, so I think that's probably probably good enough. I mean, nothing's ever good enough, but good enough for our purposes anyway. All right, so let's take care of this glass element here. Always use, now what I'm using here is cotton wipes. Actually, I borrowed these from my 10-week-old baby that I have, figuring he's not going to mind if Daddy snafus a few pieces here just to wipe down his lenses. So now, the hydrogen peroxide and vinegar has hopefully killed any fungus that was on the lens, and apparently it's pretty much cleared it off of there, which is just from initial inspection looks pretty clean. Don't see any residue or anything else from the fungus that was on there, so it looks like it's done its job. But of course, you don't want to leave hydrogen peroxide or vinegar or anything else sitting on your lens either. So I got some distilled water over here in my other dish that I'm going to have it cleaned. But first, just to make sure that it's killed off anything that might be left over, I'm going to also use some Zippo lighter fluid to kill off anything else that might be laying around. But first, give it a little dose of distilled water, rinse off anything that might be left behind by the vinegar or hydrogen peroxide. And again, it looks like it's pretty clear. So I'm kind of happy with what's going on right now. Looks good. But as I said, as part of the preventative maintenance, give it another little few minutes of the hydrogen peroxide vinegar. Nothing wrong with giving a just to be sure kind of treatment. And now I'm going to give it the lighter fluid bath. Now, of course, don't ever pour these liquids directly onto your lens. Always apply a cloth of some sort, regardless of what the solution is, and apply it through the cloth so that the cloth itself is not leaving, or the liquid is not left in large quantities on your lens. So we give it a good wiping on one side, and I'm gonna flip it over here in a sec. All right, give it a dose on the other. Oh no, don't use that. Use a new corner. There we go. As you can hear some big trucks behind me. I have a large road behind me here. Trucks are always on the move. So I've given it a good wipe. We'll give the sides a wipe too. Always think of your lens does not just have a top and a bottom. Those sides also can be host to unwanted passengers. So you want to make sure that you've got the lens covered 100%. All right, so again, it's looking pretty good, looking pretty fungus free at the moment. So let's give another little bath of distilled water to clear off any excess lighter fluid. Yeah, I always use distilled water too. Using mineral water and things like that is not ideal. You don't want that on your lenses either. So you just want, pure water. All right, so we get another little rundown. Looking good. Be very thorough. Of course, you're not applying elbow grease either. You're not like pushing into your lens, you know. You're just looking to, you know, remove whatever's on the surface. All right, so I have a brand new polishing cloth here, or a screen cloth, you may call it. It's meant for cleaning glass anyway. So it's brand new out of the package. It's never been used before, so you're not introducing anything new to your lens that you know, which is going to go against what you're trying to do in the first place, which is remove stuff from your lens. All right, so let's prepare to put this all back together. Give it another blow. It's still looking good. Make sure there's no dust that has made its way back in there. Okay, now a little actual lens solution. You know, this is again what you would use your typical solution when cleaning lenses anyway. And as I just stated, never apply it directly to the glass. Always apply it to the cloth. And give it a last little wiping, so to speak. Alright, use the polishing cloth again to give it, and this time using the other side of the cloth, which should be pristine. It's a brand new cleaning cloth here. Alright, give it a look. See, it looks pretty good. And see, here's the benefit of also using gloves as well, is that, you know, as I stated, the last thing you want to do is get oily fingerprints on your lens, because that again provides food for the next generation of fungus that may find its way onto your lens. And as I said, trying to avoid fungus is difficult as it is, so putting fingerprints on your lens is just asking for trouble. It's making it too easy for that fungus to find itself a new home. So we've got the lens glass seated back into its position. Now we need to put the retaining ring back in. So luckily for, it's one of the benefits of having vintage lenses is that they're not complicated. Well, for the most part, some are, but like an example here, this old Nikon lens only has a couple parts to remove, and the few parts you remove means only a few parts you need to reassemble. So getting the retaining ring back on, spin it around, and again the advantage of using gloves versus your bare hands is that retaining ring is very small, so your finger is going to touch the lens regardless of how careful you are. It's only a couple millimeters from the glass itself, so of course your fingers are going to touch just going through this process. So the gloves keep the fingerprints off the glass and keep the glass as clean as can be. And last blow in here to in case there was anything on my gloves or on the retaining ring as we're putting it back in, we get that out of there. All right, now let's get the that felt liner back on. And as I said earlier, remember the orientation. So the aperture arm needs to go in that slot, as you can see here, that little opening along the upper lip of the felt liner here. And as you see, the little hole right beside it is the screw hole, so that helps with your alignment as well. And once you've got that inserted, you line up the little hole with the screw, so that it makes it kind of a no-brainer of getting it getting it back in there in an easy way. So of course the great thing about magnetic screwdrivers as well is those tiny little screws are easy enough to pick up and align with the Phillips head of the screwdriver. And then we just get those back inside here. Remember, tighten everything, but not too tight, because you may have to get back in there again. I know some people love to really tighten those screws, but I don't know. I kind of have mixed feelings about that. You know, if I tighten something too much, then it makes it a nightmare to try and get it back out again, especially with these older hardware. You know, if something's really tight and then you're trying to get it out, you can end up stripping the head of the screw, and then you want to talk about a nightmare. Now it's a nightmare to get it out of there, you know, without the ability of that the screwdriver to sink its teeth into the head of the screw itself. So I tighten it, but I don't tighten it that hard. All right, so looking good. Pretty happy with that result. And as you can see, this whole process wasn't, it's not rocket science. It's not like it's not like it took a ton of time to do. It's not like there were a ton of processes. And if you screwed it up, it's easy enough to undo and, start again, so to speak. So, looks pretty clear. Again, from the video, you can't see up close what it looks like, but, take my word for it. It looks like a pretty nice looking lens. As I said, for being the age that it has, being 40 years, it's looking pretty good. That's about as good as we're gonna get. So, great.
Completed the repair. You're cured.
All right, so this was Camera Talk with Dr. Scott, and hopefully you got some good information out of this tutorial, how to clean the fungus out of your lens, the fungus among us. Is it worth fearing the fungus? Not really. There are some fungus that you need to fear. They'll ruin your lens, but for the most part, most of the fungus is not that bad. You can take care of it yourself. Save yourself some money. That's what modesty photography is all about. So to see some other episodes coming up, subscribe, help out my channel, and hit that like button or smash it. And we'll see you in the next episode. So take care. Thanks for dropping by, and have yourself a great week.
Here I am, Vietnam.